Hello and welcome to the building of the beast, the one to rule them all. Here's a layout of the equipment. As you see, we have it all unboxed, or at least packaging unboxed from the shipper. They're in their various, they're still manufacturer cases with the exception of the case itself, which is outside. I have taken that out the case. What we have here is an AMD based desktop machine, 8-core processor, 32 gigs of RAM. We're going to run, at least for the initial go, we're going to run 15 terabytes of storage arranged in a ZFS RAID Z configuration, which I think is the equivalent of a RAID 5. The drives are 3 terabyte each, Western Digital Red Edition. They're NAS Edition drives. See if I can zoom in a little bit on those. About as best as I can get. The processor is it's about as best as I can get. Well, it's a AMD FX-8150, I believe, which is a 8-core AMD FX processor. That particular one also has AMD support for water cooling, so there's a reason why the box is so big. The motherboard is a Gigabyte 990 FX UDA7. It's just a large scale board from Gigabyte that supports the 990 FX chipset. I'll go into why I chose that particular board in a little bit. RAM is a G.SKILL, I don't remember the type, 32 gig, standard, pretty much standard run-of-the-mill desktop memory, but I maxed it out. The power supply is a CORSAIR HX or whatever 750. A couple of these Noctra 120mm fans. There's a cheapo heatsink only video card, and we've got a couple of additional cards that I bought. This one is, see if I can get any closer. There we go, that's something. This is a massive 6-port Intel Gigabit networking card. Dell used to manufacture it, they no longer do. I bought it off of eBay. Very hard to find, very good card, obviously for having 6 gigabit ports, which is great in pass-through situation for VMware ESXi, which I plan on doing with this massive all-in-one system that I plan on building here. In addition to that, the SAN portion of the EFX box, come on, there you go, there you go. Well, that's about as good as we can get. This is a IBM LSI standard RAID card. Supports up to 8 SAS SATA disk. Got this also off of eBay. There's a server pull. This will be what these 5 drives will be running on in pass-through mode to ZFS running on should be Open Indiana, and that's pretty much it. This hard drive hidden down at the side here is just going to be the boot disk. It's one I had laying around. So this is the build, and stay tuned. We're going to start opening this stuff up and seeing what we got. See you in a bit. And we're back. So I've taken the liberty to unbox the Gigabyte 990FX UDA7 motherboard. This of course is an AMD motherboard. It supports the 990FX chipset from AMD. I'll go into why I sprang for this particular board, and the reason simply because, one, I needed a board to support the 990FX chipset. The 990FX chipset is what allows desktop-based AMD machines running VMware ESXi to do pass-through. And pass-through is essentially when you take hardware components that are added on to the motherboard via add-on cards and even perhaps other means, I'm not exactly for sure, and then pass that physical hardware, real hardware, onto a virtual machine and have the guest operating system running on that virtual machine see that hardware as physical hardware. It's a very, very powerful feature that can be used in a couple of different ways. In my particular case, I'm using it for two things. One is I'm passing the IBM RAID card, which has been flashed into, I think it's called IT mode, where it essentially is just a host bus adapter. I'm going to pass that on to the ZFS virtual machine that will basically be functioning as my SAN. In addition to that, I can pass through some of the Gigabit networking ports onto cards. I can do a couple other different things, which is the reason why I bought that 6-port Gigabit card. If you can zoom in here specifically, let me see if I can. I don't know if I can make that any better. I apologize. Don't have the best video recording equipment here. But this particular motherboard supports a variety, a huge amount of expansion cards by way of available slots. There is, well, I wish I could get a better picture. See if that's getting better. Let's see if we can get it in a bit of light. That's better. So, massive amount of slots. The PCI Express 2 16-port or 16X lanes are in here, an additional 2 that run at 8 speed, and an additional 2 that run at 4 speed, plus a legacy PCI expansion slot. So there's a lot of slots here. Both my particular add-on cards are 8X, so they'll occupy 2 of these. One of the cheap graphics card that I bought will occupy one of the X16 slots, and that still leaves me with a second X16 slot plus 2 additional 4 slots, which is the reason why I bought this. Right away, I can tell you that future plans for this build involve a HP SAS expander, and that will go in one of these available slots, either the 4X or the available 16. The 8X slots in particular is what I bought this particular board for, and the reason being is because after doing some research, it seems to be that the 16 slots in these desktop motherboards tend to only work with graphics cards. I heard that as a rumor. I'll find out, you know, for sure one way or another at some point. But I want to have a board that has as many additional slots that I would need without having to worry about these 16 slots being for graphics or not. My particular cards are designed to work at 8X. I've got 2 dedicated 8X slots in here that won't be used for graphics cards, so I'm fine there. And that's specifically why I bought the UDA7, because the UDA7 is the revision of this board that has this many slots. There's a UDA5 and a UDA3. I think the UDA3 is like a mini ITX format, and the UDA5 might be maybe a standard ATX. This bad boy is actually, I believe, extended ATX. It's a little bit bigger than traditional ATX, I believe. I have to go back and double check on that. But that's the reason why I bought this particular motherboard. I thought it would give me the least amount of headache, because I am running kind of server grade cards on a desktop grade board, and I didn't want any kind of compatibility problems when you start mixing and matching. I'll go into why I bought AMD in a little bit. It'll be my next video here. Stay tuned when I start to unbox that. But this is the motherboard that I'll be using. See you soon. And we're back again. So quickly, this is the unboxing of the AMD 8150 FX processor with supplied water cooling kit. AMD, the 8150 is actually one of the AMD Black series processors. It's actually a gaming processor. Not a big gamer, and I tend, in my past building experience, I would never spend this much money on a processor. This one was about, I think I paid about $160, maybe $170 for the kit. But it's an 8-core processor, which is awesome, and it also comes with water cooling. You know, me never being a personal gamer, I had never strayed into the water cooling fray, so this will be my first water cooled build. Water cooling is only really good for 2 things. One, guys who overclock, and actually come to find out, which is the reason why I sprang for it, surprisingly, water cooled systems, they say, are actually run very quiet. And this rig is ultimately going to go into a house where people live, not in some data center or some server room, and I needed it to be as quiet as possible, which is the reason why I sprang for this water cooled system. Not much to it. The documentation, installation guides left me kind of wanting as a first time water cooler. So we'll see how this goes, but this is why I chose this. I forgot to mention that. It was actually, you know, it's pretty simple. Most AMD guys run AMD stuff because it's cheaper than Intel stuff, significantly cheaper. You go out and buy a Intel, the iCore 7. That's anything near what you're going to get with this 8-core. I guess technically that would be a 4-core Intel i7, and you're going to spend a lot more money than that, than what I spent, and it just becomes a multiplier effect once you start to get into like the server chips. AMD stuff is significantly cheaper. This bulldozer architecture that AMD's gone with is not as efficient as Intel, nor is it as capable in terms of performance per clock. But it's got a lot of cores, and a lot of cores isn't going to help you when you're trying to play Far Cry or some kind of game or something. But it does do very good in virtualization environments, which is what I'm running. Currently in the AMD desktop stuff, you can get up to 8 physical cores on one chip. And with the bulldozer architecture and the server grade, you can actually do as many as 16 cores in a single processor. And I've seen boards that feature 4 physical processors. So, you know, you do the math, you're talking about a lot of cores that you can get for the money. You know, granted, large IT organizations will swear by Intel stuff for a variety of different reasons, but at the end of the day, the value has always been what AMD's been the best at. And me personally, I've only built AMD rigs. Haven't built a rig in a long time, but I don't normally build rigs, but when I do, they're AMD. So that's it. Let's start building some stuff. Next video. Talk to you later. And we are back, and we are built. So what we have here is our fully built system. It's pretty cool so far. Nothing is booted in terms of loaded on the hard disk operating system wise. This is just kind of a turn on test. As you can see, we have a total of 6 hard disks. The top 5 are the Western Digital 3TB RAIDs edition, the Reds, or NAS edition I should say, 3TB Reds. The bottom is a old Western Digital black that's from an older computer, or just an older setup, one I had laying around. The top 5 drives are plugged into our IBM SAS RAID card. Below that is the 6 port Gigabit networking card, and everything else in here is pretty much run of the mill. I'm amazed at just how quiet this thing is. It's got a total of 6 fans. We've got 2 on the top, another 2 in the front, and the final 2 are clamshelled on the liquid cooling reservoir. And this thing makes no noise. Very little noise, in fact. See if I can get up close. Don't mind the lack of focus, but you shouldn't be able to really hear much of anything. And indeed, the drives are on. If I flip to the front here, you can see they are actually spinning. Case is very quiet, which is perfect for what I intended to do. And so far so good. We've got some BIOS configurations to make. We've got to load ESXi and a bunch of additional configuration. So we still got a lot of work to do, but so far so good. See you later. And we're back. And this is our finished, fully built system. And when I said it's pretty much silent, I mean it. So if I just go in and grab this cord, power cord, plug it in, it's on. You can hear pretty much nothing as this thing boots up. And it has 6 running fans currently. With capacity, I can actually run some additional fans here. But it is on, and if we pop the I remove the panel. So there's the system, and like I said, it's whisper quiet. Where's my focus ring? Focus ring is here. So there we go. Yeah, makes no noise. Everything works wonderfully. Couple things I want to point out. See if I can zoom in here. And maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Not enough light. But that guy right there, which is this thing, is a USB adapter that I bought. Inside of it is a very small, very tiny USB key. You can't really see it, but it's right here. That's where ESXi, the actual operating system, is installed on, that tiny little USB key. And the entire system is booting up from that. The bottom drive down here is a 1 terabyte Western Digital just a normal black edition drive. My original plan to use an older drive I had laying around failed because the drive didn't work, so I had to go out and buy another one. It's a little bit more space, a little bit too much space in terms of local storage than I planned on running, but it is what it is. My original plan was to dual boot the system. That also fell through because, as it turns out, both Microsoft Windows as well as ESXi are very greedy in terms of the installer. They will pretty much take the entire disk and that's it. So you can't really partition the disk and put one operating system on one side and another operating system on the other side and then dual boot. So my plans to have Windows access to this box will involve some kind of a eSATA 2.5 inch external hard disk that I'll install Windows to and have it boot from that when I need to boot the system into Windows. But other than that, we're pretty much good to go. Like I said, thing is whisper quiet. I'm very, very happy about that. As you heard with the case, with the door, the side, fully on, you can't hear anything. So this thing is going to get put into its new home in my closet, and that will be that. And I'll start consolidating machines and building the SAN and doing all of that great stuff. But we finally arrived. Take care. Be talking to you soon. Bye.